Hello and welcome to the show. Today I'm covering 3 live streaming camera options that you should consider. They're nice and easy, they're cheap to set up, and I'm going to show you how they look. Hello and welcome. I host the Photography Live Show. I'm your host Zulf. Today we're looking at live streaming cameras. I've done a whole series of videos on live streaming, which was more expensive stuff, DSLRs, but some of us just want to get started. So I've got a cheap webcam here, and I've got an action camera. I'm going to show you example footage of all of these so you can see how they perform should you get a live streaming camera. Let's find out. So first up, we're going to look at a cheap camera. I've done a number of videos on this camera. It's the Goodman's action camera, this one here, and you can use it as a webcam. Let me show you some samples of that footage. That is a 720p stretched out to 1080p canvas on OBS. Let's put some lights on and see how that affects it. So that's like proper lighting now. So that there, you can see how much difference light makes. So light is going to be your friend if you can pick up some cheap lights. That is a 720p stretched out over a 1080p canvas, Goodman's action camera, and see if we can make that any better. So if you have a cheap budget and you don't have any lights, what can you do? Okay, this is on device default at the moment, which is giving us that square window. But let's go to custom. Okay, 1280. Let's put that on top so you can see the full size. 1280 by 720, which is the highest on the Goodman's action camera for webcam usage. Highest frames per second, and those settings there you can see. But there is an option here for configure video. I can't change the camera control, contrast, hue. I don't think any of that does anything for this camera anyway. Sharpness. Okay, that's not doing anything. So let's go back to default, cancel. The next test is going to be with a standard ceiling bulb light. So they have put on the ceiling light, which has a slight yellow tinge, and that's auto corrected itself. So you can see now it's, well, still dark, but colors, they look acceptable. Let's go back to configure video. Screen I was showing you there. Sync. I wonder if the audio is synced, because what you can do in OBS if it isn't synced is, if I show you this screen, you can see that's the Goodman's action camera. The volume is 100%, and you can put offset sync in this here. So I go up in increments of 100, and it basically delays the speech to the video so you can find the right balance to match it up. So that explains that bit for the action camera. Would this be a good camera for gameplay? Let's find out. So first thing you do is have the screen a lot smaller. Look on gameplay scenario when you're shooting up or doing whatever you're doing, fiending. So that is a Goodman's action camera option 1. Okay, so you can see there the Goodman's was interesting. It's got a cheap camera vibe about it. The colors weren't great without lights. So if you don't have any lights, think about getting maybe one light. That will help you a great deal with getting that video at a better level. If you're using it for a small screen in the corner like I showed you, perfectly adequate. So that was your first option. You can pick that up for roughly £20. I'll put links in the description for everything that I'm talking about so you can actually check them out. Next up is going to be the Vibe HD 1080p action camera, and that is a camera that I've used for multiple videos, and it's worked out quite well. You'll see it performed a slight bit better than the Goodman's action camera in terms of the colors in OBS, and I think that was comparable for a cheap webcam, action camera webcam. Again, you can pick up similar cameras of this kind for about £20, so it looks reasonably good, to be honest. Sync wise, how are we doing with sync? And let's do another quick gameplay test. If I make this nice and smaller, so this is giving you an idea of what it would look like on a smaller scale if you were putting it as a gameplay video. I'm looking that way, so let's put it like that. Okay, so that would be there. Like it's doing anything to me. Saturation, apply. Yeah, it's not much going on there. And make my action camera a full screen. This is a 1280p resolution extended out to a 1080p canvas in OBS. So we've done no light, we've done light. Let's do proper light. So now this is a proper lighting setup. You can see the camera auto adjusted. I've got a lot more light. Okay, next up I'm going to show you how the HD 1080p webcam performs. So this is designed to be a webcam. It's going to be nice and easy. If you're new, it's a cheap option to get. That's how the box looks. It's an Advent webcam. There, I've kept the cameras in the same position as possible just to give you a fair comparison between the three cheap camera options for live streaming. Now let's put on some proper lights. So that's proper lights with a 1080p action camera. Here, keeps dropping down. Okay, so okay, not bad. So if we were to put that as a gameplay, you can see the angle of the camera is different to the action cameras. It's a bit more focused in, locked in, so smaller, whereas the wider angle of the action camera. Let me put a light on. Okay, so that is with a ceiling light, so you can see that there. I've kept the cameras in the same position as possible just to give you a fair comparison between the three cheap camera options for live streaming. Out of all of them, I think the webcam is the easiest because it's already cabled up and stuff, so you don't have to fiddle about with it. And it's got a decent angle. I'll compare it to about 50 millimeters. Webcams, oh, there we go. Brightness works as well. Brightness, contrast. Okay, so on a webcam, these additional details for saturation and adjustment of gamma works. However, on the action cameras as webcam, it did not work. Yes, and using you can find multiple cameras. So you can see this shows up as a full 1080p HD action camera webcam. It's not an action camera. Okay, so custom, we can do a custom, and actually it's got a 1920 by 1080, which is a lot better. Highest FPS. Let me get that up here. Okay, so there, because that is a 1080p feed, it should be better. You can see in OBS it allowed me to adjust a lot more than the action cameras did, because I was able to adjust the brightness and contrast. And again, it was nice and easy. You can put it on top of your monitor. Okay, here's an example of another Vibe 1080p action camera. When plugged in, you can see it shows up as generic UVC, and here it actually, that is not great. So that makes me think there's something wrong with the cable. So let me change the cable and see what effect that has. Okay, so you can see right there, I changed the cable, which worked on the Goodman's action camera just on the previous test, and now it works. So if your action camera is having problems, change the cable. You saw that instantly just improve. Okay, so the first one, let's do no light. There may be some issues in OBS when you plug in the devices. Sometimes from the drop down, you may have to reselect the camera just like that because it doesn't recognize it. It gave me a black screen. I closed OBS, I reopened OBS, I did deactivate, activate, and that gave me the camera. So that's something, a tip to keep in mind when you're using OBS and using multiple cameras. So you can see this shows up as a full 1080p HD action camera webcam. It's not an action camera.